version so people know like who's who. So, hey guys, welcome to the 13th episode of the Melee Stats podcast, starring me, SaveAsUntitled.
Me, Edwin Budding.
Me, PracticalTAS.
And special guest, Fendrick Lamar.
Most people probably know you in the scene, Fendrick, but if anyone's not familiar or living under a rock, could you give like a background of like kind of what you do, who you are?
Yeah, so first and foremost, probably known as one of the premier Smash commentators for Melee. Commentated events such as EVO, CEO, Big House, SmashCon, Genesis, pretty much all of them from top to bottom. And another thing that I do for the scene is I provide commentary management and coordination services for tournaments, particularly SmashCon, Big House, Shine in the past, Pound in the past. So those probably what else I'm known for. Not a terrible Marth, to be completely honest. I got some good wins as well, but I think the majority of people will know me as a commentator. But I do like to play Green Marth and Green Marth alone, so happy to be here.
Cool.
You're making progress.
Wait, hold on,
Trying.
guys. Did we remember to plug the podcast in the Discord and the Discord in the podcast?
That was
Oh,
a great
yeah.
idea. Casey.
So,
And the Patreon. We gotta plug the Patreon.
Oh, the page.
I'm gonna copy and paste it in the chat. So if you guys are watching this and you haven't joined our Discord already, please join in the link in the chat. This is where we talk with our community. And I'm also going to link our.
oh God. That's not good. At least, can you guys still hear me? I'm gonna reload this, but. Oh, that was weird.
Did PTAS leave?
I think Ptash just killed the Discord. I mean, killed the everything.
Oh man.
Oh wait,
That's
no,
okay.
no, we're
I see it.
good. Just.
The audio listeners are having a blast
Yeah.
right now.
Oh boy.
They have no clue what's going on.
But
we can hide. It's all good.
down in the description we have, and also in the chat if you're here now, we have the Discord link, the Patreon link. But without further ado, do you want to jump in the CEO?
Yeah, so we got a lot to talk about. This is the Smash and Splash is I think most people would consider that the first major of the summer, but the actual first major of the summer is CEO. So before we get into the real meat of the tournament, I gotta ask you guys a question. Is the ending of Cyrox versus York the most heartbreaking ending to a set you've ever seen?
100%. That was so sad.
Yeah, I agree with Save. That was honestly just like a catastrophic collapse. He even had like the kill setup, right? He had first the bomb soldier that he dropped, and then he had the connect on the laser. He could have just gone out there, back air, down air, whatever, and he just whoop came back and whoop right off again. It was awful.
Yeah, so if you guys didn't know, basically, Georgia Falco made top 8 at MomoCon. I famously called 2018 the possible year of Yort.
All right, Edwin.
He was up 2 stocks to 1, Cyrox at high percent. I believe mid combo, right, Fendy? With Cyrox off stage, and he jumps off, side Bs in the opposite direction. And then within seconds of starting his last stock, he side Bs off the stage.
I think the first side B was towards him off stage. That's
Yeah.
But everything else, yeah, everything else is just like he even had a chance to drop down, like he was firing some lasers, and then it looked like he just got caught in like the classic miss your snapback, tried to turn around laser, and then whoop.
Dude, can you imagine if he
right here, like, oh god.
Dude, can you imagine if he hit the side B on Cyrox on stage? How hype would that have been? It would have looked intentional. It would have looked so sick. Yeah, I don't know, man. Georgia Falco's and CEO. We got K-Pan Wizzy.
It's a bad history.
Yeah. So outside of Yort Cyrox, I believe another upset from Phase 1 was Articanus over Cal. That's pretty good, right? I believe Cal was playing Sheik.
I think so. There were actually a lot of round 1 pools upsets. The biggest actually, and I thought, was round 1 C15 beating KJH.
Yeah, and round 1, right.
Literally starting off the tournament with a loss, and then he ran it all the way back to 9th though, which is amazing.
Yeah, that's about as lengthy as a loser's run can be without making it all the way to top 8 and stuff. So
Yeah.
really I would honestly say, like, in today's age where there's so many regional talents in different regions, like, I'm not gonna hold the C15 loss as much against KJH as I am all the people that he beat in losers bracket. You know, like that's an incredible performance and nothing to really be ashamed of.
Yeah.
Am I back? Am I back?
You
Yeah,
are.
I hope
All
so.
right. Okay.
You're man, you're back. Another big upset in phase 1 was Stockholm Syndrome defeating La Luna in what is yet another. You know, how much lower can someone fall? Stockholm Syndrome's a really good player, but for someone of La Luna's caliber, you know, can we really say we're surprised at this point?
I don't think so. Honestly, I just think so I had a chance to chat with him at Pound Underground after he got just eviscerated by Zain in winners.
Yeah.
It was like one of the most brutal 3-0s that I've seen in a Marth Ditto in a long time. And he was like, he said that he basically got the motivation beat back into him. Zain just showed him how much better he was, and Moon said it lit a spark. And then since then, in the month and a half that we've had since Pound Underground, he has just put together unbelievable stinkers of performances at both Gommel and now CEO. It's just amazing to say, like, what happened to this guy?
Yeah, it always.
Think that
Oh, I was just gonna say, it always just feels like, oh, that's his worst performance. It can't get worse from here, and it keeps on piling on. You just want to keep giving him the benefit of the doubt, and you just gotta wonder, when do we stop? What's the point where you stop saying Luna is still good, and he's hanging on to that he's just kind of fallen off so hard?
I would say that if at the end of this year he's no longer on the top 100, then at that point and no earlier will people stop going, okay, he's just underperforming. Because if he has a good run at Evo or wherever and ends up placing like reasonably or like within his previously expected range, people are going to be like, oh, he's back. I guarantee that.
Fendy, you ever notice that La Luna seems to be strangely weak against Peach? This is something.
He's really bad. He's so bad at that matchup, which is surprising. His losses.
Why? I can't tell.
Know. He has like a career losing record against Mafia. He just lost to Stockholm Syndrome, right? We just saw, and it's just like, I don't know. I don't get that, because for a player of his caliber, in a winning matchup, you feel like he should be taking some of these, but.
You know, maybe if Moon went to a local and he got to play Rio V. Maybe. Or
on that note, who do you have, Moon versus Maybe?
No.
I don't want to watch that set. I don't want to watch that Moon. I think Moon will. I have to.
The fact that you're even hesitating shows there's a problem.
Yeah,
right?
You know,
It shows that he's fallen.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe a respectable regional player and everything, but for someone of La Luna's caliber, who we saw defeat Leffen last year and make top 8, it's just not a good look.
Yeah.
Is there anything else in phase 1 that warrants mention?
There were a couple, if I can find it. Shout out to G Money for beating Drunk Sloth.
Yeah, that's a pretty good.
And Articanus over Cal.
Yeah.
Articanus. I don't know how to pronounce it. Shiz and Milkman also lost in like early pools, like day 1. Zaza beat Milkman and ADMJ beat Shiz. Who is ADMJ?
I don't know. Shiz had a rough tournament too. He had to play.
He had to play La Luna for 97th or something. Yeah. All right, you guys want to move on to phase 2 then?
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
All right, so we'll just go chronologically here. G1, so Lot and Money Mike has his standard, goes to game 5 with a really good player and just loses in heartbreaking fashion, but gets a few pretty hype moments. Zain 3-0'd Pew Pew.
I was so surprised.
Notably very good at, like, he had a reputation for not being good in the Marth Ditto because he typically lose it to PPMD and King. But the very slept on thing was that he wouldn't really, against all the other Marths, he would go positive or just not lose to them. And for Zain to 3-0 him after PPU beat him previously at Flat Iron, I think is a really good sign for Zain.
Yeah, that definitely. This was something we were talking about before the show started, but this was definitely the kind of thing that Edwin and we probably were like, Zane's probably just going to get destroyed by PPU. He's probably going into losers bracket.
No.
Yeah, for sure. These guys would definitely have written him off. I would have had PPU winning for sure though. I don't deny that. And for Zain to 3-0 him and 3-stock him on the last game, I think that's really good signs, especially because if you ask people what one of Zane's worser matchups would be, it would probably be the Marth Ditto. Like I know he has experience playing it a lot, but lost a hybrid, you never know what could happen with it. For him to beat someone that's revered well in the Marth Ditto now, like PPU, just goes to show that he's still getting better. Anyone, you guys have anything to say about IBD? I guess that happens later in the tournament.
Yeah.
Never mind.
He won. Baraka actually beat Cal 2-0.
I want to bring up Cal for a second. Yeah, thanks for reminding me. Any of us know what's been up with him lately? Because he was kind of like doing really well at the end of last year, like Gods and Gatekeepers breakout player. And just since then, he has
the single greatest bait that a young fringe top 100 kid. It's like the perfect time. He gets on top 100. Basically, that tournament got him there.
Yeah.
And I just honestly think Melee, like he said, he's not having as much fun. He just isn't taking it nearly as seriously. And it's like kind of showing. But
yeah, he's playing like Sheik now and stuff. Not that the Sheik is bad. It's just I feel like most people know him for his Fox. All right, so.
Oh, yeah, I was trying to think like what's his best win this year? Like is he even I can't even think of anyone who Cal's beaten this year. Like I don't know if he's top 100 would be top 100 if the ranking was done right now.
Maybe he's beaten like Reeve or something, but like I don't know if Cal is definitely below Michael right now.
Oh right? Yeah, for sure. Like I think there's no question in that.
So I mean, Cal's gone to like 4 or 5 big tournaments. So he DQ'd himself from Genesis, it looks like. He got DQ'd, he got 129. He got he got 9th at Nudes Oakland. So let's see if he got a good win there, possibly.
That sounds just about in line with...
Because you have to get a good win there. Yeah. Especially, so he lost to Mike Hayes, and then he dropped into losers. He beat East Coast Jeff. Oh, actually, no, he got kind of lucky. His bracket was East Coast Jeff into Dr. Light into West Balls, who he lost to. So, no top 100 win there. Unless he got one in pools. No. He beat Crunch.
He beat Cobalt at Sweet 31, it looks like. And Ginger and Dreffin.
That's right. He almost beat Clinton.
Oh yeah, I guess that's true. I shouldn't discount that. That is a good.
Okay. Yeah, but
on the topic of Cal, on the topic of Cal, after Gods and Gatekeepers last year, I put a Twitter poll up asking where Cal would end up at the end of 2017, and 8% of respondents, that is 147 unique people, said that Cal would make top 30 by the end of 2017.
What?
So I think a lot of people expected a certain trajectory from him, and it just never panned out.
Those sound like the same people who exist in my comment section. Like I see a lot of those people.
Yeah. Why is it? If you look at that Nintendo poll where it's like which of these players is going to be ranked the highest, and I think Cal won that poll, but when Absent Page was on it, and it's like just so very clearly like, yikes. Yeah. I think that's it from that pool.
Yeah. So G7, I want to start off Army beating None.
Yes.
Really good.
Yeah.
Walden, his favorite game once more.
That dude is. I think Army is like top 30.
Yeah, I think so too.
I agree.
He's really. I was hesitant to put him up there even after are doing a lot better locally. Just watching him play, there's so many. Like I mentioned this, I think last podcast or 2 podcasts ago, but in the set against Axe, the second or third game against Yoshi Stories, he chases Axe to the top platform in the first 3 seconds and insta grabs and wobbles him. And I couldn't even hit. I was like, that is the sickest. That's so badass. You just chase down the fastest player.
It's funny you mentioned that because after the podcast, I watched like an interview he did with that, and he says the biggest thing that separates him from other ice climbers is that like as soon as he spawns back in, like he's got a lot of those things mapped out, like what he wants to do exactly. So that makes a whole lot of sense. Something like that.
Yeah, I think he's easily the best ice climbers now. Right?
Oh yeah, easily. Well,
he's filling the vacuum. He's filling the vacuum.
There can only be one.
There has to be. No, it's not. There can only be. It's like the Jedi. There can only be one instead of 2. There has to be one, and Army is finally filling in that role after the unfortunate demise of Chudat.
So after None lost to Army, he apparently, I didn't see this before, but he dropped a game to Nogrilla, who is I think a Tampa DK or South Florida DK. Can you imagine if Nogrilla beat him? That would have been so funny. We could have had Nogrilla Maxi to make it into top 24. Imagine a DK in top 24.
And then the winner of that would have played Stockholm Syndrome. So like, wow, Syndrome top 16 run.
Dude, can you imagine if Stockholm Syndrome and Nogrilla played a set of, it would be like
DK Bowser.
Yeah, that event mode thing in Melee. I forget what the name of the event is, but it's like DK versus Bowser or something.
It's the giant one, right?
Yeah.
In the hypothetical world where Nogrilla is the person to make top 16 off this section of the bracket, his losers run would have been Bustin' Ball, Dro, I don't know any of these names, Vu, Lion,
pretty good.
None, Maxi, and Stockholm Syndrome. That's
pretty
the
good.
run there.
Don't sleep on Vu. Vu's actually a pretty.
But I would say like to get top 16.
Yeah, no, honestly,
by
it'd be
avoiding
ridiculous.
Every like good player, that would have been nuts.
Another cool thing from this pool is, like I called before, Yort, except Yort lost to Zaza. Yort beat Smash Bob SquarePants earlier this year, but losing to Zaza this tournament. But he also beat Cobalt the round before.
Yeah, shout out to Yort for bouncing back. Right?
Yeah, for real. If I'd been that, I would have been done. Like if I had a huge lead on Cyrex and just like killed myself twice, like all right.
He won like what, 4 loser sets? Yeah, 4 loser sets, and
I
made top 32.
I would have probably DQ'd after that. I'm not ashamed to say it. I would have just been like, how could I?
Melee, you're done with Melee at that point.
I need a break from that.
Sorry. So yeah, I mean, not only were the loser sets like he stayed composed, but even like Tylenol is a good win. Tylenol's
North Carolina
player. Yeah, and then 2-1. Do you guys know if that set was streamed?
Cobalt Yort? No, I don't know if it was. I would like to watch it though. I thought that had good upset potential. Yeah. All right, I think that's all from that pool. So in pool H1, the set I really was excited to see go down to the finish was SFAT versus Swedish Delight, which SFAT won 3-2, but Swedish was so close to winning that.
Yeah, that's his demon. I think he's like 0-6 or 0-7 against SFAT.
Yeah, it's a horrendous record.
SFAT is so, even though it didn't show in a set afterward, I think of SFAT really highly against Sheik. Like, box players, if you want to learn how to beat Sheik, I think SFAT is such a good person to watch. He really abuses all of her weaknesses pretty well.
Shoutouts to SFAT Swedish and plup Stockholm Syndrome happening in the same round.
Yeah.
That just looks so weird, yeah.
Stockholm Syndrome, the god.
The god himself. Beat C15, the man who felled KJH. Only to get stomped by plup into stomped by None.
Plup Sharks must have been really tough for Sharks. I can't imagine NC has any like notable super notable Samus players.
I don't think that's the reason that match was tough.
I mean, it's also
I don't think so.
Hey, Sharks is pretty good.
He's good, but
don't hate on my boy.
He's not gonna be
Drunk Sloth in the Ditto.
Really?
Yeah.
2-1.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Uh,
and we could briefly touch on another upset that happened in this pool is that Arakune did beat Ginger to make top 24.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a pretty good win for Arakune. I know he experienced against Falco in his region. And what do you think of Ginger against Marth, Fendy? I can't tell whether he's good in the
So
matchup or not.
he has so we played a combo breaker, and game 1 I destroyed
You three-stocked him,
I
yep.
three-stocked him. And then he basically just shifts the game plan to an absurd degree where it's like, all right, I can't win the scrum, so I'm just going to shoot the gun. So if he can get the lasers flowing, and that was something that I didn't have a good answer to, is like if my power shields or if Amar's power shields aren't on point, then he's basically just going to capitalize. He's just going to sit back and shoot the gun. And if Amar can deal with that, then I think that's where he really struggles. Is basically he lends himself by doing that, where if you get an opening, then it's just over for him. And like we've seen him have really close sets. I mean, he and Zain had a close set at Big House. Zain had to clutch that out. He had a close set with me. I mean, I don't know. I don't think he's bad. I wouldn't say that it's one of his best matchups, and I think that's also can be sort of part in reason because that there aren't any really good Marths in Michigan. You know, he's gonna go super even with all these top foxes because he plays the KGH all the time, but there's no one nearly as good as Marth. So yeah, I don't know. I know that he said he was very disappointed and didn't really want to play the rest of the weekend after he lost to Swedish because the Swedish set was last stock game 3 and he killed himself.
Yeah, baby Yort.
Yeah, it's all birds of the same feather, right? They flock together. It's so hard. Yeah, and I mean he and Swedish had a super close set at Combo Breaker too. So it's just like mental blocks, and Ginger's been a player that has sort of struggled with
Yeah,
issues.
we mentioned it last week also that he's been kind of on a downward trend.
Yeah.
I have a crazy crackpot theory about Ginger because I forget who I was watching the set against, but to me his playstyle looked really different, and my crazy crackpot theory is that because he's been grinding away at net play so much, he plays more like he's on net play when he's playing in tournament now. It doesn't, maybe it's just I can't like pin down anything specific that he does differently, but just watching him before and watching him recently, it feels like his playstyle shifted a bit.
I can't really comment on that, but definitely I know Ginger just based on he's very open about it. I know he talks about like dealing with a lot of personal problems and also like not doing as good as he wants to in Melee. Certainly probably only compounds it, but I think he'll bounce back at some point. Like,
oh yeah, for sure.
Like he's a pretty talented player and he's hardworking, and maybe a break would do him good. I know he's been to a lot of tournaments this year, but the talent is clearly there. And almost beat Swedish Delights.
I just think he's having a rough time.
All right, so pool H7, Gatsu. So because Crush didn't end up attending CEO, Gatsu got to play Flaming Roy out of pool and beat him 2-1 before 3-0ing S2J to make it to top 24 from winners. You guys want to talk about S2J getting so tilted in the Falcon Ditto that he tried Falco?
Yeah, what was up with that? I only saw games 2 and 3. I did not know what happened in game 1.
So S2J has had a Falco for a while. It's a very good Falco. I mean, it's a secondary Falco, but it's still a very good Falco that he'll sometimes bring out. I know he tried it against Wizzy, but it could be just a comfort thing, so I can't really speak to whether or not it's like a logical pick or not. But just whenever I watch S2J play the Falcon Ditto, I think he's pretty good at it, and so maybe he just doesn't enjoy playing it at a certain point if he's not feeling it on a certain day. In fact, I'm pretty sure we talked about this last week. But yeah, I guess another loss in the Falcon Ditto. I don't think that means he's weak in it. It's just, I don't know, just something to note. And it's a good win for Gatsu also. And I wrote about this earlier this week, but I feel like Gatsu's one of those players where when you think of them, you kind of have him pinned down in a certain tier of players. And when you look at his majors, he's never really disappoint. He's either lost to people that you expect him to beat, or he loses to the rising
He's a
players.
25th place guy at like every event, right? You could pencil him in for no worse than 33rd and no better than 17th, right? He's that. I don't see this is like the
Well,
first
he got
time-
49th at Genesis, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah, no,
yeah,
yeah.
it's- Again, do you know what was his bracket at Genesis? I'm sure
he lost the thing is, like, he always gets seeded against like Hbox or someone really hard in the first part of bracket. Then in losers, he'll lose to like a player who was underseeded at the time. So like at Full Bloom, he lost to Absent Page, but we now know like that's not a bad loss. Like Absent Page is a rising, he's like a stud, you know. So I think a lot of Gatsu's performances have gotten on like he lost to Bananas at Optic Arena. Yeah, at Optic Arena, and like Bananas is on an upward trend, so it's not like a bad loss for Gatsu. It's just like he's never, and it's good to see him. Like even if it was kind of lucky because he got to avoid Crush. Like it's not as if Gatsu's never beaten Crush before, right? And still beating S2J is a really good sign for him. So it's good to see him do well at a major again, or to make it into top 24 from winners.
Yeah,
Did you guys see his set against None in top 24?
No.
I did not. How did that go?
So he was up 2-0, and then in one of the games on FD, he had a last stock edgeguard situation, and he went to stomp None, but None, or he went to like back air, he went to like aerial None off stage, but None techs the aerial on the wall of a FD, it just insta stomps Gatsu, and Gatsu loses the stock after being up for like most of the game, and None reverse 3-0s him.
Damn.
Wow.
So heartbreaking, but Gatsu, very balanced Falcon player, always like top 50, fringe top 50 maybe, or like just always been in that solid tier. So good performance from him at the tournament.
I'm just kind of confused about because if I recall correctly, in Gatsu versus S2J lost game 2 harder than he lost game 1, right?
Yeah,
So
I think so.
I'm just confused as to why he kept up with the Falco in game 3.
He probably just didn't like playing the Falcon
Probably
Ditto.
just doesn't like the Ditto.
Yeah, it could just be a comfort thing.
Maybe it's a anti-20 GX thing. He doesn't like how much they know about the Falcon Ditto.
Maybe, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Gatsu's
no.
very good against Falco. Also.
Right.
He probably didn't put much thought into it and just play a different matchup, honestly.
So while we're still in this section, so just Johnny, like where do you see, we've seen him do like, it's hard to categorize, like he had a good smash and splash, he had a pretty good Full Bloom, he had 17th at Flatiron, 17th at Genesis, and 9th at CEO. Like, you know, the guy who's top 10 2017. Is it starting to feel more like the 2016 S2J, that like 15th, 16th seed rather than top 10? Like, you know, here's a question: would you rather, if you have to pick a player that's going to do better for a tournament starting tomorrow, do you pick S2J, or do you pick someone in there like Shroomed? Do you pick
None, Duck.
Yeah, and it's like
I don't think Shroomed, but maybe like None, Duck.
Yeah.
Even Lucky, honestly. Like
Lucky's a little bit more of a sketchy pick.
Lucky's ceiling might make it worth it, but I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a good question, Fendy. I think there's the top 10, obviously. I think all of us, like the big six, Axe, Amsa, Wizzy, Zain.
Yeah.
And then I think SFAT and probably Crush, just by virtue of like what most of us innately think of him. But then after that, it gets a little weird, you know, because it's like S2J, None, Duck, maybe Hugs, Westballs, Swedish.
Yeah.
It's like this big conglomerate of players that it feels like, depending on the matchup, they could either do really well.
Yeah, like I felt that at the end of 2017, we didn't really have like a true top 10. It was kind of like a top 9, and then below them, S2J and Chew and Drug Fox to a slightly lesser extent. So it was kind of like S2J was kind of top 10 like by default because there wasn't a real top 10, kind of, if that makes any sense.
He didn't fit in that tier. Like he wasn't. It's not like.
I see what PTAS is saying, right? It was like there was very clearly 9, and then the argument for like Chu and SUJ.
Okay, yeah.
I
Drunk
think it's
Fox
like
eating,
Yeah.
like
yeah, it's
close.
like
Yeah,
there wasn't a
exactly,
clear
exactly.
number 10, whereas this year we do have a very clear
Yeah,
top
there's
10.
like a very hard stop after that, and then the next group of people.
Yeah, and even that, and then you could even say there's a really hard top 12, right? It's like I think people are chronically, just because of the way he loses sometimes, or I think are to almost, even though he'd be 11 right now, are underrating SFAT. If you like look at SFAT's year, he's gotten top 8s
Yeah.
pretty consistently.
But he just gets like slapped in top 8. So
Yeah, you just
people
Yeah.
think-
he gets styled on by Zain. You're like, oh, the classic.
Yeah,
SFAT
oh my god.
tournament. Yeah.
There's I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this like 3 times in previous episodes, but there's something like beautiful about watching SFAT just get like dunked on by Zain and Mewtwo King.
Because you love Marth.
Oh, well,
That's
not just,
exactly
like, Marth
why.
against Fox, but just SFAT in particular. I can't explain it. Like I watch other Foxes get destroyed or something, and I'll feel kind of bad. But with SFAT, there's always like this nice like oomph factor to. SFAT's like really nice, amazing player. Like I do genuinely hope he does very well.
Yeah,
but-
I definitely feel that. I feel like a lot of that can sort of stem from seeing him play Pew Pew and beat Pew Pew, and you
yeah,
know, it's just
for
like
a
you
while.
think when you think of SFAT, you think of, yeah, he's been playing with the Marth for so long. He should be really good at this match. When you see these Marths come in and just, it's really satisfying. I'm not gonna lie, it is.
As a
Oh
Marth
my god,
fan,
I love
the
Zach.
3 Marths. Let's talk about Marth.
oh gosh.
All the
No
Fox
Fox
players.
main now.
Yeah, all the Fox players listening to this podcast must be so pissed. There's more of this to come, guys.
Oh Christ.
All right, let's get back into our last round to phase 2 pool. We touched on Gatsu. This is where Magi's run comes in.
Yes.
Yeah, they did really well beating La Luna. I mean, that's still a good win now. We don't know.
Yeah. No.
Sinbad beat G Money. I think that's pretty good. Sinbad, Florida Chic. That's a solid win. G Money, no joke. KJH, of course, we were talking about him earlier, but even beating people like Dublat, ADMJ, Flame and Roy, and Toussaint, like individually, those may be expected, but for a really big run, that's super impressive. KJH to beat them like back to back to back.
And he didn't drop a game in any
Drop the
set.
game, yeah.
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 You know, we also saw Luna versus Shiz, which is like battle of the overrated players, I guess.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
Where's I don't know where Shiz is so weird. Old school player. You never know how he does.
Mhm.
All right, you guys want to talk top 24 now?
Yeah, I'm just looking if there's
Yeah.
anything else.
Just with Shiz, I'm still not quite a fan of how doesn't seem to have like really like not on the melee side, but on like the behavior side of things. He doesn't seem to have like repented or anything for all the shit that he used to do, and it kind of bothers me that that we're still able to talk about them like and like ignore that other side of them. Like the same with Arakune. Like he's famously been a very kind of like toxic person for a long time, though he did go on a Twitter spiel about how he feels like something's wrong with him and needs to change. But like I feel like we never saw anything on that side of things from Shiz, and I don't know. I know that there are still people that are uncomfortable with him being at events. And sorry for the aside, but I feel like it needs to be brought up.
Yeah, no, it's really
That's
important
a
to
fair
talk about
point.
it. And you know, I haven't had a chance to interact with either player in person, but from all accounts of what I've heard is that the big change for Shiz is that he has, I'm not a religious person, but from his perspective, he looks like he has found a true sort of source of a new beginning for him in Jesus. Like that, again, not my thing, but that's his thing. That's cool. And you know, it's weird to be in this position where yes, like we standards should be innocent until proven guilty, but as a community we can't really just do that, right? We have to, if someone feels at risk or threatened by presence by a certain person or whomever, we can't sit around while waiting for a a drawn out process or whatever. We have to act.
Mhm.
And I think that if we see that behavior from them, then we need to act. But frankly, again, maybe I don't. And this is tough for me because I'm speaking from a position of privilege as someone who gets to interact with these top players, but I haven't had a chance to speak with them. I'm sure it might be different from someone who has maybe had negative personal experiences with them in the past. But I think I feel like, again, I'm sort of kind of dancing around this, and it's very hard to arrive at the center of the point. But like, what if Phil had a really good point about this, it's like, how can we draw the line on giving this guy a second chance, but also, again, as you mentioned, PTAS, like protecting the protection, like protecting the safeguards of our attendees. And I think that, oh God, with Arakune, like, I'm glad that guy is doing some introspective looking and is going to try and find help, but I want to see actions before I see words. You can spout on Twitter that, oh, I don't like to be hated, I'm going to change. And then, we see 2 or 3 months later that he's still going into MDBA Melee and calling someone I'm not going to use the words he used directly with me.
Yeah, please don't. I know what you're referring to.
Yeah.
So I want to see actual action. I want to see people come back and say, oh, like, it not only has his in-person demeanor, noticeably improved, but also he isn't being, a D-bag on social media, and that's great. And I do think it's important for us to not assume that they're not incapable of change. And giving them the opportunity to make those changes is very crucial. And I think it's a big point of pride in the Smash community is that we can show this empathy and we can make those steps. But again, there's no right answer. It's really hard. But
I want to mention one thing in particular. Like, I am glad that we're talking about this and that this is a medium where we can be pretty frank and honest about this. So let me just go out and say, like, for those of you listening, like, regardless of what your view is on this, like, you have to keep into account that ultimately, like, us four on the podcast, like, we're all guys talking about this, so we're coming at this from a perspective of being guys. I'm sure if we had women or other people on the podcast, like, they would have a very different perspective. And I think that's important to acknowledge. But based on Shiz versus Arakune in the scene, for instance, I think a thing with Shiz that also I feel made it easier for people to see kind of evidence or documentation of his reformation came from the fact that he had to go through government mandated counseling and he went through anger management. So, like, we can debate or we can talk about whether or not that's a good standard that we want for people to, like, whether that's a good way of actually preventing a sort of like violence or anything like that, or being a good sign for reformation. But based on decisions local community leaders have made in Florida, and based on even last year's MIOM call about this, I think that community leaders view that as a sign of genuine reformation and change from Shiz. And in Arakune's case, I don't know him personally, so I don't want to make character calls on him or based on something he did 3 years ago or based on what I've read of him online. But just based on his actions, like, I think pretty clearly even he would acknowledge that he has hurt a lot of people through what he's done. And while it's good of him to acknowledge that, if there's a way for someone to, if there's a way for him similar to how Shiz had proof, some kind of proof of his reformation or whatever, that would be a good step for him to show change, at least.
I agree.
And just on another note of Arakune, I want to mention one thing specifically without calling too many names. And Fendy, you'll know what I'm talking about. But I really want to sort of let it be known that, like, if there is someone in your scene, like in your specific scene, that you feel is giving your scene a bad look or is engaging in behavior that is questionable, even if it's not their intent to hurt someone, if they're engaging in behavior that can be read as that, like, if you know a person like that, it's on you to stop that and to not make excuses for it, and to sort of keep them accountable. Not because you have the moral high ground on them as a person, but because it will help them develop and just be better for your scene. And I feel like this is something that kind of happens in our, like, as much as people complain about others making judgment calls, I feel like it's important to acknowledge that you can hold someone accountable and still, you can hold someone accountable and be reasonable about it. Those two things aren't mutually exclusive, you know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, you don't have to make excuses for that kind of thing. And I'm mentioning that because I know there's a lot of controversy and a lot of people are upset with how Florida community leaders have dealt with it. So regardless of whether they are right or wrong in it, I feel like that's a point that needs to be brought up, especially when talking about this topic.
Yeah, it's honestly a really tough topic because like at the end of the day, you're still talking about people and their behavior and their actions and whether or not they should be allowed to be a part of our community. And we're not going to have all the answers like in this small segment of this small podcast. So, but it's still worth discussing, I feel, and that's why I brought it up.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, I agree with what you said, and I agree with what Edwin said. Is, you know, it's things that need to be talked about. But we also need to talk about top 24. Sorry to.
Nice transition. I like that. Yeah.
I got my segues off.
Yeah.
That's that commentator knowledge, dude.
Yeah.
You know how to move from... Fendy, I want to commentate with you one day. Maybe, probably not as, but at least at a regional.
Always down.
Be fun. All right,
Alright.
y'all want to talk about how hype it was when Gatsu took the first game from PTA? Y'all want to talk about how hype it was when Gatsu took the first game from Hungrybox and then went up game 2 before Hungrybox remembered who he was?
Yeah.
Can we
Good
talk about
classic.
rest to the Yoshi's story rest where he just plopped onto Randall?
That was
Think he
crazy.
knew? That was like one
No
of the
chance. There was
craziest
no
things I've ever
chance
seen.
he knew. You think Hungrybox would have had any idea what the Randall timer is? No chance, dude. It was all
That's pure heart.
intuition.
That was heart
Yeah.
right there.
There's no, maybe Crunch knew, but definitely not. There's no chance
It
Hbox.
was insane.
Believe in the heart of the stage.
Yeah.
Are
but
any
so,
of us-
I mean,
Are any of us shocked that IBDW 3-0'd Shroom's ass?
yeah. So I was.
Yes.
Yeah. I was
We
just gonna
are
go
we are shocked? Really?
Oh yeah, so I was just gonna
3-0?
get on, like, we saw in winners, like winners quarters, all of them really standard, other than Gatsu getting the first game, right? It's like Zain 3-0 Lot, plup 3-0 SFAT, Mewtwo game 3-1 over Wizzy. Yeah, and then you go down, you see like immediately, that's the first big upset of top 20. Honestly, maybe the only like really big upset in top 20
Wait, which one? Sorry.
was iBDW over Shroomed, in my opinion. Like
Oh, okay. So you agree that was you agree that wait, or sorry.
Yeah,
No,
no.
that is the only big upset in if you look at the top 24 losers bracket, everything else is like within a reasonable realm of possibility, in my opinion at least.
Yeah.
Like a very reasonable realm. That is the only one where I looked at it, I was like, damn, what?
Except Plup Sheik taking a set off Hungrybox.
Well, I'm just gonna say, like, does a win on sorry Shroomed, for whatever reason you're listening to this stupid podcast, but like IBDW, up and coming box player from the Northeast, really good against like both Marth and Sheik. Is it that crazy that Shroomed, who's kind of struggles in the Fox matchup, loses to IBDW? I don't really think so.
I'm surprised IBDW was the one who beat it. I'm surprised Absent Page didn't do it, but IBDW did.
Yeah,
And he
that-
did so
that I
cleanly.
agree
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
It's a very Absent Page thing.
Yeah.
Remember when Absent Page like beat Duck but lost to Swedish Delight in the same tournament?
I just
It's a reverse Fox player thing.
he lost to KJH in Swedish, but beat SJ and Duck.
Yeah.
Like,
Just,
whoa.
what? What an Absent Page result.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if you look at everything else, like Hugs over Arakune, yeah. Army over Shark, yeah. None, Swedish, PPU, KJH, all wins, all made sense. But the next round, SJ over IBDW, Army over Hugs. None Swedish Delight was the only one that like I probably would have pegged the other way, maybe. Like Swedish is typically pretty good at the Falcon matchup.
Agreed.
Yeah, I had to put that down as 50-50.
Yeah, but exactly. It was like it's still really close, and it was game
Yeah.
5. But then
Fendy, what do you think of Mewtwing's Marth against Wizzy?
I need to watch. I did not get a chance to watch that much of Top 24 as I was pretty busy this weekend. But I did not know that he went Marth. I assumed it would have just been a Sheik Falcon set.
He just went Marth on Stadium and cheesed him.
Oh,
Mewtwo won the Marth Falcon game.
He beat his ass. They played in winners. In winners, they played 2 games on Pokemon, and Mewtwo like 2-stocked him in 6.5 minutes in the second game. In the second game on Pokemon. And then in losers, they split games on Pokemon before Mewtwo went back to Sheik.
Got it. Wow.
KJH
I'll have to
PPU
look at
though.
Yeah, that is like, again, like on paper probably pretty close, but from what I know in KJH's long-term struggles against Marth, he has really taken some serious strides in that matchup because he just beat PPU, but then he also beat him another.
He beat him at EGLX or something.
Yeah, he's beaten him now twice in a row, which is really good for him. You know, we see him play against Zain and doesn't go too hot.
It doesn't go too hot is a bit of
I want to play it safe. I want to be nice.
No, KJH is, he's working super hard. He's on that YouTube grind also. He's streaming. He's revolutionizing the metagame. Even the stuff he does with Marth, like teching a Fox's down smash and wave landing onto the stage and grabbing Fox. That's so cool.
Yeah.
I would love to have him on the show sometime. KJH, if you ever listen to this, you're always welcome.
Yeah, he's sick. I'm very happy that, again, we talked about it a little earlier, that he didn't get totally, shut down by the round 1 loss and managed to run that all the way back to 9th place, where he did get kind of shit on by Wizzy, but, that's not super surprising. And yeah,
Is it weird that, like, Wizzy will, like, sometimes look so good against, like, the second-tier Foxes, that group of those group of players, but then he'll just like randomly drop sets he'll drop like a set to Kells or like a set to Cobalt and nobody bats an eyelash.
Also, I just think Cobalt is amazing against Falcon. I think that any Falcon
that's
in the world
fair.
that beats Cobalt is a god because Cobalt is so good at that matchup.
Fun fact actually, before we get too far away from KJH, but fun fact is KJH actually had the most set wins at CEO of any player in the bracket.
That's sick.
Plup and Hungrybox both won 9 sets, and KJH's run from losers round 2, I guess, because he technically had a bye round 1, was 10 sets.
Damn.
That's crazy.
So he had to work for that. And he didn't even make it to. He ended up at 9th. He didn't even make top 8, but he still worked for that. He said he dropped 1 game to Bayrad in round 4 of losers, and then didn't lose anything until that one against PPU, and then lost to Wizzrobe.
Yeah.
So
he had the best set win percentage of anyone not named Hungrybox.
KJH very good at melee. He's a strong player.
Yeah.
So that's top 24, right? And then top 8 was
top 8.
Pretty. I mean, Plup Zain was a great set until game 5, where that upbeat just killed him at like 30, and then it just spiraled out of control.
Unfortunate PG team kill.
Yeah.
Did you see I actually missed SFAT Law. What was that like?
It's also super close. And that's Lod's first top 8 at a really big tournament like this. He was very happy. And then
first major top 8, yep.
Yeah, and then Wizzy. I mean, Wizzy Zain. I swear to God, if I could have one.
Oh my God.
One matchup every tournament guaranteed, I would take that one. I mean, Zane's gotta get one. He's so close.
He was so close to 3-0ing his ass. I don't know what happened.
He's gonna get one.
He'll get one.
Game 4, Zain was playing like a little cute. He was playing a little cute with the lead, and then when Wizzy had high percent last stock and Zain at low last stock, I just innately knew, I was like, this is gonna be over 3-0. It's gonna be another heartbreaker.
I think we need to address the elephant in the room.
No,
I
don't.
thought that was the last section.
No, the elephant in the room is the fact that
Please don't.
Mewtwo King Hungrybox
Ugh.
ended with a Jigglypuff Ditto.
Yeah.
And then Hungrybox popped
Popped
off.
off. He popped off on Mewtwo.
After not even game 5, game 4, after entering the stadium to All-Star. The only real entrance by anybody on the Melee side, unless you count Mewtwo King and Nun, their entrance being they walked around Burton.
Oh man, I mean that is now that's 2 tournaments in a row that someone has popped off on Mewtwo King's Puff, right? Because Axe popped off.
Axe, how scary for Axe the prospect of getting counterpicked by Puff successfully.
God.
Can you guys believe we're living in a world where Mewtwo King is like 2 hits away from actually people believing that he has a secondary?
That was never going to work. I'm just going to straight out and say it. The whole game, Mewtwo King, even when he was up like 50% in the Puff Ditto, I was looking at the screen like Mewtwo King is not going to win this game.
Mm-hmm.
And just to rewatching that set, I rewatched that game in particular because I know there's gonna be people who are gonna be like, oh, like no, the Jigglypuff Ditto is totally a viable strategy. Like, get out of here, dude. You think play Jigglypuff for an entire set and win against Hungrybox? No. I saw all the I'll give Mewtwo King credit. There were moments of promise in the Jigglypuff Ditto. Like it kind of reminded me of his other characters. So he was weirdly good at juggling Jigglypuff in the Ditto. So when he would get Hbox above him, it almost kind of reminded me of like Mewtwo King playing against Armada's Peach and Marth. Like when he would get above him, he was really good at keeping him above with up airs or keeping him in like a positionally disadvantaged situation. But he also got a bunch of hits off of like stray trades when he had or he would do like falling nair, for instance. So Hbox would hit him in the corner, and then like Mewtwo King would just like fastball drift towards Hbox and falling nair trade. And like he would also get openings off Hbox, kind of like hitting his shield but lazily throwing out another aerial, which Mewtwo King would then intercept afterward. And you can kind of see it midway through the game. Hbox kind of like wakes up and starts adjusting. And when Mewtwo King tells that Hbox is adjusting, because you can notice this too, because Hbox starts like, instead of just kind of lazily hitting Mewtwo King's shield, he starts doing like cross-up drills or even just like tomahawk grabbing him in shield. Mewtwo King starts playing a lot more scared, so he starts like hanging in the corner a lot more, and you just kind of slowly see Hbox regain the lead and just start chipping away at the game. So no, I don't think Mewtwo King should really buff Hungrybox. I hate this. It just like bothers me because I understand that we're all desperate to see Hungrybox like lose against not Fox and not to play that same matchup, but you can't.
Hey,
just like you gotta watch.
I love Fox Puff. It's serious.
It's
a great matchup if you actually like look into it.
Well, I just don't think that I don't think that playing Jigglypuff on Dreamland has a bigger chance of victory.
Yeah.
It's not like as Fox hasn't won games on Dreamland in the past, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It just feels like either desperation or recency bias to look at this one game and to look at a set where Toussaint took a game and be like, oh, Hungrybox's weakness is the Puff Ditto. Like, time to Puff Ditto him.
I feel like every time we talk about Mewtwo King, it like dives into a psychoanalysis of what he's thinking for every set, and that just we never get anywhere with that.
Yeah, that's
okay. Hot take: there's no psychoanalysis. He just losing the Fox and went Puff for the hell of it. There's nothing deeper than that.
Maybe we'll never know.
It was Hungrybox's counterpick. He had just won a game.
Bless.
Does he just not like Dreamland? Like, I think. I'm not going to try to psychoanalyze. Whatever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've given up.
So we all agree that like this notion. Can we please dispel the notion that Mewtwo King knows what he's doing when he goes?
He has absolutely no idea what he's doing.
When he goes Jigglypuff against Hungrybox. All right, so we all think that.
I don't know why he went Puff against Axe either. It's like Sheik Pikachu. Watch any set of Swedish play versus Axe. Swedish destroys him.
Is that what it is?
Where is? You could do this, Mewtwo King.
Mewtwo King has a long and storied history of failed Jigglypuff Ditto counterpicks, going all the way back to
Pound 3.
Pound 3. So I think that's just his, like, I'm giving up, but I'm not actually giving up. Giving up.
Yeah.
That's my psychoanalysis, even after I said I wasn't going to.
Shout out to Paragon Orlando 2015 final, when Mewtwo King just got roasted in the first 2 games, double force knock,
Yeah, you got
and then just puffed it out.
Yeah.
Game 3.
Classic. All right,
Let's
so
move on.
Yeah, I was about to
what's
say.
next we got? So Plup's
Plup's
characters.
This could be really interesting, just moving. Who's he going to go next set? This, I think, is a more likely and more reasonable thing that you could argue for Plup in what direction he goes against Hbox. What do you guys think?
See, I was thinking from like the middle of Grand's set 1, that if he won that set, he should have switched back to Fox for set 2 to keep Hungrybox from catching on and adapting. So I was thinking to myself, even if Plup takes set 1, Hungrybox will figure out what's going on and take set 2. When was the last time Plup took 2 sets with Sheik off Hungrybox at a tournament?
I think it would have been some local last year in the first
Yeah,
half.
I don't think he's ever done back-to-back with Sheik at a major.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, probably not a major.
I think that's where the thought came from. I was like, he could get one. He can definitely get one, but you're like rolling a dice, and not a lot of those numbers are gonna come up yours to win that set is Sheik, and so trying to do it twice is just tempting fate.
Yeah, that's fair.
Moving forward,
yeah, go on.
Moving forward, I like the idea of bringing the Sheik out every so often, but I feel like he's got to have it. It's kind of got to be like a perfect storm where like the Sheik's ready and the Fox isn't. That's my thoughts on it, at least.
I will say one thing. I don't think playing both in a set for different stages will be very good, just because it'll be kind of a different tempo change for Plup, and it'll be more characters that he has to warm up specifically for Hbox. And I feel like whichever one he picks, he should just go with it the full way.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I don't think the value of having Hungrybox having to adjust is more valuable than Plup having to change his playstyle with a completely different character. I don't think the value that outvalues one, and I think, but I don't know what he can do to beat Hungrybox. It seems like we see this story every tournament.
Hungrybox is the most dangerous person in the world against Fox, right? Is there anyone more dangerous against Fox than Hungrybox?
No.
Like Mewtwo King, maybe, or Armada, but.
No, I think if you were to ask me, like, they play 10 Foxes in a row, each at like one's rank 190, etc., all the way up to number like the best Fox or whatever. I think that Hungrybox wins the most sets, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like we might see Armada lose to Plup's Fox. We would see him lose to Leffen, whereas like I don't think Hungrybox loses to pretty much any Fox. Maybe.
Armada, to be fair.
Yeah, I guess. But even so, like, I feel like Armada Hbox more of a toss-up than Leffen Armada. I feel like
Look, guys, look.
Yeah, I agree.
Look, listen to this. Aliens Visitor. They all play Fox. They've been studying melee footage for the past.
I think I've heard this copy pasta before.
They have.
Question.
They ask us for one champion to take down all of their Foxes. How many people do not pick Hungrybox? Come on, really?
I would hope the answer is 0. But I feel like there'd be some people out there that would say Armada.
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry. I might have to be that like one person. I feel like this because they'll have footage of studying Hbox, right?
Hey, all the top players have footage studying Hbox, and only Armada can beat them.
Yeah,
so
you get 9 You get 9 Hbox Fox sets at tournaments. Like,
yeah, it's not like the footage isn't there.
Yeah.
Well, whether he's the most dangerous person in the world against Fox, or not. Like the point is he's so absurdly good in that matchup to where like even throwing a different body in his path. It's funny that we're talking about Hbox like he's Thanos, just like throwing bodies at him, you know? Like I feel like it would going a different character would definitely hurt Hbox's chance in a fuller bracket, but I don't know if the loss and matchup ratio or whatever would outset the how do I phrase it? So it's like Puff is harder for Puff, but Hbox is better against Fox. But would playing a different character who's worse against Puff still outweigh Hbox's natural advantage? You know what I'm saying?
I think I get what you're getting at.
Yeah. I don't know.
It also depends how Plup feels, because I know Plup knows he can win with Sheik, but he just feels more comfortable playing Fox. But at the same time, Fox hurts his hands and is technically demanding to play.
Mhm.
So wait, just to clarify, you're just saying that for an individual person, switching off Fox would make it less likely for them to beat Hbox, but make it less likely in turn that Hbox wins the whole tournament. Is that what you're saying, or am I completely off?
Yeah. I think like cumulatively in a full path, like if Hbox's path to grand finals goes Mangos Falco in quarters or something, Plup Sheik in semis, and then Hbox is to play Armada's Fox. I think that's that's a worse draw than if you were to just play 3 Foxes.
I can
100.
Or more realistically, like Wizzrobe, Plup Sheik, Armada's Fox, or Mangos Falco if he somehow made it that far, and then a Fox in Grands.
And then PBMD's Falco in Grands.
Yeah, if we're going that.
See, super quick, I want to stay on track too, but really quickly, there was one of his tweets recently responding to some rant, because PBMD has nothing else apparently going on than to just respond to people that tweet at him. Someone was like, "Are you coming back?" And he said, "Yes, I'm coming back." Again, we don't know what that means, we don't know when, but he seems very determined to come back.
I've been saying this since 2016, but I've never told anybody. But I've been saying it. PPMD is going to come back the same time that Metagame comes in. How it is.
Which is also apparently very close.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Absolutely is very close.
I know a little too much about this, but it is coming out. We can end the topic there.
Yeah. Okay.
I know it's coming out soon.
So
Someone's
Hungrybox's
announced that it's
legacy,
coming out.
we've been
It's coming
talking
out.
Hungrybox and his ability to win tournaments, whatever. So he has won everything that he's gone to except for Genesis, Summit
and Smash and Splash.
Smash and Splash and Optic Arena.
Yeah.
But basically, he's won all of the like just short of super majors, right? He won CEO, he won Dommel, he won Full Bloom, he won Momocon.
He won EGLX.
Wait, no, Hungrybox won Summit 5.
He lost Summit 6.
He lost Summit 6.
Oh,
Yeah,
we're talking
We're talking
Yeah.
2018. Yeah,
Oh,
sorry.
okay.
And then he had that late second half of 2017 surge where he just like dunked on everyone.
Yeah.
From basically, and this is again super quick off. Like, there's an argument that the set between him and Armada at GTX changed the course of the next 18 months of Melee that we've seen.
Mhm.
If Armada wins that set, then I don't think Hungrybox gets super hot. I don't think he wins Big House. I don't think, he basically has this iron grip that he had. I don't think he wins Summit. Like that, winning that set, coming down from 3 stocks to 1,
Mhm.
game 5, that changed everything in my opinion. So
Yeah.
like,
Interesting theory.
I don't know. So I think Hungrybox's legacy, I think he is still clearly number 1, just because no one else is like really.
Right now, you're
Right
saying,
now.
right?
Yeah, right now.
Yeah,
it's still
yeah,
number 1
no-
for 2018.
yeah.
Like, and I think by a comfortable margin because all the other big tournaments have been split. Right, it's like we saw Mewtwo King win Summit, we saw Armada win Smash and Splash, we saw Plup win Genesis. No one has really been like, I'm clearly Hungrybox's biggest competition.
Mhm.
So I think Hungrybox is still number 1, and you, Edwin, are going to be the foremost authority on where he sits, historically. But he's getting there, right?
Yeah,
He's
Yeah.
I'm
he's
sick of
creeping
having
up
this.
the Mango Armada Ken conversation.
Yeah, I hate having this conversation at the end of every major. For this one, it particularly feels important because winning CEO actually, by the same standards that Pika and I use to make the top 100 list and qualify major and title events, CO actually marked Hbox's 23rd ever title, which officially ties him for most amount of major victories along with Mango.
Wow.
So, you know, by the end of this year, does he pass Mango for number? Like, I think right now, personally, I have Hbox at number 3. Like, I think he's past Ken at this point.
Really?
I can definitely see that.
And I think by the middle of next year, it feels inevitable that he will pass Mango. And, you know, depending on Armada's long-term melee, like Armada won Smash and Splash, so I'm not going to sleep on him. But, like, you know, when do we start having this uncomfortable discussion of Hbox being number one?
That was
Being the
Armada's
GOAT.
first major tournament win since Evo last year.
Yeah.
Like, he went a full calendar without winning a big tournament, and Hungrybox in the meantime collected multiple. So I mean, yeah. I also, you do have to give Armada the slight benefit of the doubt that he just can't go to nearly as many things.
Yeah, I still have Armada number 1 on.
Yeah, but yeah,
very solid margin.
like, I think there's like a timeline that he stays hot. He gets his second Evo trophy, and then that's like the big thing, right? So now he and Armada and Mango all have 2, and like and then maybe he gets a second big house.
If he wins the next Evo, which is the next major, he'll have the most victories out of anyone in Melee history.
And he'll have the he has the biggest tournament win ever, and then we don't know the exact Evo numbers, but they seem to be pretty good if they're like any indication. We'll have to see exactly how many. My guess is that because we're back on Sunday, we get more than we did last year. But
I would think so. But then again, we're 4th in the rankings right now.
Yeah, but it's also, again, like Street Fighter 5 when it first came out had like 5,000, right? Dragon Ball Fighters is probably going to have a lot, and a lot of crossover entrants too, just because everyone like plays the game casually. Apparently, I don't know. But I would be surprised if we had under 2,000. That would be my.
How many did we have last year?
I think that'd be high.
Yeah, how many did we have last year?
I don't think we hit 2,000 last year.
We didn't hit 2,000 last year. I think it was like 1,800. But again, I think the Sunday boost is a big boost. Yeah, there were 1,428 last year, so there's a pretty big drop from 2016.
Okay,
2016
Fendy.
were 2,400.
Fendy, I know you have to like leave around 9:30, so I just want to be appreciative of your time and keep the ball moving.
Okay, we're on a topic at least. We're on.
One last thing before we move off the legacy topic. I've always found it kind of interesting, like how just asking the question of where somebody is on a ranking, whether that's an all-time or like current ranking, how that sort of anchors people to where to their like future thoughts on the same topic, because you can sort of avoid this by using the hard data, but like if you have the published top 100 list of all time, now as additional tournaments come into play, it gets harder and harder to change from that list. And so I feel like I can see this even when people talk about like Genesis. You don't really see people saying it as Genesis ends. You don't really see people saying, oh, they're the early front runner, number 1 on the year. But once that sort of talk of, okay, so what does the list look like happen once you've gotten a couple months in, I find it's hard for people to change their views over time. And so you'll get people that were ranked highly early on in the initial thought process, still get ranked highly later because you kind of have them anchored to that level. And I'm kind of very surprised that you guys are willing to talk about how Hbox is climbing the rankings as the year goes on, because I expected there to be a lot of anchoring, but that clearly is not the case. And I think
it's important for us to understand, like, when, God knows when we'll be done playing this game, and we take a look back at like these stretches of dominance, and I think it's important to realize that we are in one, and we are in one of the sort of
it is his era.
eras. Yeah, it's the Hungrybox era for sure. And so like this is where it's the same thing when you look at like regular sports, right? When you look at the Bulls' dominance, it's like, oh, these are some of the greatest teams of all time because they went on this stretch. It's like Hungrybox, one of the greatest players of all time because we don't know when it'll end, but we know that we're in it, and that is important that we have to understand that.
Yeah, and now we're in the Adam Silver era of dominance because he's letting Golden State. He's actually secretly a Golden State.
All right, I'm gonna get so sidetracked if we talk about
let's not get in the.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, LeBron in the Phillies jersey.
So
I don't want to talk about it.
Hungrybox wins another major, but now we can talk about the melee stats speed round.
Let's
We
go.
have a segment where I offer a litany of questions that the panel discusses in a minute, for each one in a minute, and at the end of the discussion, I grade each of them on their answers, and the winner gets a minute to talk about whatever they want.
Ooh.
So
I love it. Go around the horn. I love it.
yeah, so we got special guest Fendy here. We got returning SaveAsUntitled, and we got PracticalTAS here. So who's gonna take it? We're gonna find out very shortly. All right, as soon as I get this timer started.
All right.
Oh boy.
right.
I'm gonna lose again.
3, 2, 1, go. Who is the best player in the world that Mewtwo-King's Jigglypuff can defeat across an entire best of 5?
Oh.
Hungrybox. 100% I believe in the puff.
Oh my god.
I cannot think of. Oh man. Shroomed?
I think Mewtwo-King's puff would be Shroom.
Uh,
Shroom has no experience, and I think that he would get so. No, I'm just kidding. He plays Hungrybox really close. So I'm kidding.
I can't even. I don't
want to
even.
lose automatically.
I don't even want to think about the validity of this question. I think that just makes me upset trying
There's 10 seconds.
trying to parse that in my head. Be like,
Andy, what's your answer? You gotta give one.
God, I don't know. I don't think he beat Zain. He might be West Balls. That sounds like
that's
a more
Fendy's answer.
realistic answer.
but I thought he
West
said a good player that he can beat.
Oh,
Oh, no.
Okay.
No,
All
I'm
right.
joking.
All right, guys. Second, on that note, where is Puff on? Why go?
I didn't hear the
Yeah,
question.
it cut you off.
Just a second.
Okay, where's Puff on your tier list? Why?
3.
Easily top 3.
Number 3.
Zero question. It's honestly it's between Puff and Marth for 2. And that's because
Puff at 2.
Yeah, I'm serious because Hungrybox has demonstrated that Puff pretty much can beat any character. And like if you can beat any character and you only have a losing matchup on Fox versus a character like Marth, which may have a winning matchup on Fox statistically, but has losing matchups elsewhere. Depending on how your bracket looks, it might be better to have a Puff.
I'm gonna go
Fendy and
devil's advocate and say that there's a lot of other good Puff players, but they're not nearly as prominent. So I'd say maybe 4 or 5. I don't want to say it's all Hungrybox carrying Puff, but but anyway, tier list as a concept I think are dumb. But
So
Tiers don't exist.
All right, Fendy, you get the last word.
Yeah, to use that lack of puffs in the top 100 argument. So if you use that same theory, you have to basically then say Falco is no longer in the top 5, and that Captain Falcon is, right? We have a dearth of Captain Falcons in the top 100. We really don't have that many Falcos. So I think using that logic isn't that great to keep Puff at 4 or 5. I think that Marth is just, Zain is basically, and again, speaking of one person carrying a certain character, I think Zain
10 seconds.
is showing that he's pushing Marth to show that he, constantly getting top 6s in tournaments. He's going to be beating all of the top players. He beats Fox, beats Falco, goes even with Sheik, beats Peach. So I think Marth and Fox just have better matchup spreads than Puff.
Okay, so heading into the second half of 2018, which slumping player do you choose to redeem himself at a major? Chudat or La Luna?
I say La Luna just because I just want to see how far Chudat can fall. It has nothing to do with me wanting to root for La Luna. I'm just curious, like, how far down can Chudat go? Like, he's good, but how bad can he be?
So I'm just gonna to play devil's advocate for Save. I think that it's gonna be Chu specifically because if you look at a lot of Chu's 2017 runs, he got a lot of bracket luck, and I think that is again just the sort of randomness of a certain tournament that if Chu gets the right 5 people in a row, he can get back to winner semis. He can get back to top 8s. I think La Luna has just such a bad spread against so many different players.
All right, PracticalTAS, you get the last word.
I picked Shroomed.
Bold. I like
All
it.
right, that's a good note to end that on. All right, who is currently the #2 melee singles player in the world?
Armada.
It's plup. I'll let PracticalTAS go first.
Honestly, I feel that it's close between Plup and Armada, but if you're counting on number of times eliminating Hungrybox, you got to give it to Armada.
Safe.
I was just gonna say, Plup won because going on my point from last week, I don't think we should have an inactive player ranked as #2.
Oh my God.
But
Whack. Whack. So
All right, that's
whack.
that's enough
Okay.
there. Or Fendy.
All right,
what
so
do you-
I'm going with Plup, based on Armada. If you look at, he is 3-0 on Hungrybox, but he's also 0-1 Mango, 1-2 Mutaking, and 2-4 Leffen, and then he's even with Plup. So Armada only has a winning record against one member of the top 6, whereas Plup has winning records on both Mango and Mutaking, and he has 5 set wins over Hungrybox, which some of them may be coming at locals, but Genesis, Nudes, Gommel, and CEO are all good tournaments to beat him at. So I think.
Wait, so PracticalTAS, just to clarify, PracticalTAS said Armada and Fendy.
And I
both
said
of you
Plup.
say Plup. Okay, both of you say Plup.
yeah,
Okay,
Plup.
very good. All right, for the 5th question, which was a lower point for Hungrybox, rolling onto the stage at the Big House 6 or coming out to All Star by Smash Mouth?
Oh Jesus. Rolling onto stage. Because I don't think you could get it. Like, no one is gonna be like, "Oh, it's rollout." You just look really stupid. That's just me.
If it was a somersault, at least you could have the argument that it was rollout, but it wasn't.
I think rollout's worse because he still won with All-Star. If he rolled out like a dumbass and lost, so I think that's monumentally worse. Like, you can do whatever you want if you win, but if you're gonna roll out and lose.
Yeah, he was he even was coming out in losers top 8, right? He was going to play SFAT, or no, he already lost SFAT. He was going to play
PPU.
Yeah.
All right, and for the
I didn't answer yet. On the topic of if you win you can do whatever you want, but if you lose it sucks, I'm gonna go with his sunglasses act at Summit, where he finished 4th.
All right, so last question. This is a special one. In a best of 5 $100 money match between Fendrick Lamar and Melee.
You cut
out. We don't know who Fendy's playing.
Okay, in a money match between Fendrick Lamar and the number 69 player of all time, Scar, what's the result?
I would shit on Scar.
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah, no question.
If we played Marth Falcon right now, I'd shit on him.
Oh, tell him.
I'd beat him in the Ditto. Or I've wins over Rishi and Smash. Rishi and Zain. And if you went like Scarfox or whatever, that would just be ridiculous. So I would 3-0, maybe 3-1. He might get a game on Dreamland.
Yeah.
Top 70 player of all time, Scar. You're gonna do him like that?
I completely agree. Like, Scar would be too busy talking about how he got some really good spike on the first stock while he's about to get 4 stocked. You'd be like, "What did you see that play?" As Fendy is just pulling the Fendy on him, just easily handily 3-0.
I have to give it to Fendy unless the set is streamed and they are self-commentating. Because if they're self-commentating a stream set, then Scar's antics get on Fendy's nerves so hard that he tilts and loses last stock game 5.
Oh, I want to see this now.
All right.
So Fendy, if you're throwing down the gauntlet, Let Scar know.
I
This
can't
could happen
believe
at Shine.
I can't believe you would call out you would do the number 69 melee. That's so mean. How could you do that? All right.
I know what I'm capable of, and I know what he's capable of, and I'm capable of more than that. So
Fendy, what
Fendy.
Falcon practice do?
So
Or are you that confident?
It's not necessarily like Falcon. I think it's also like when we play, I would beat him game 1, and then if we're not self-commentating, that's just all of his, preconceptions about the set going forward is shattered. I just destroy him, right? If I beat him game 1, he's like, oh shit, I'm outclassed here, then it's over. And I think that's what would happen. But I'm trying to think of the good Falcons that MDVA doesn't have many Falcons.
That's what I'm
Jungle
saying.
Guy in the last money. I mean, people sleep on Jungle Guy. I cannot remember the last Falcon I played. But again, it's not about matchup for me in that. I like that matchup, and I just think
Scar's got that matchup knowledge on
All right.
He's been on the reads all the time.
Okay, I don't feel like giving my rationale for who scored best, but I'll give like a quick summary. So who's the best player in the world that Mute Kings can defeat across an entire best of 5? I gave the point to Fendy because he had the same answer I did, but I will say Save had the funniest response. So Save will actually get the first ever tie with Fendy on that round.
Oh.
Where Save will get a point there and Fendy will get a point. Because Save mentioned good players, which I thought was, even though it wasn't true about West Balls, it was such an absurd statement on its own. I gotta respect the hustle there.
I still love West Balls.
So
We'll start beefing again.
Yeah, so where is Jigglypuff on your tier list and why? I thought PTAS had the best explanation, so I gave it to him. Heading into this, so everyone has 1 point right now. Heading to the second half of 2018, Chudat or La Luna, I liked PTAS's refusal to answer the question, so I say Shroomed instead. So I gave PTAS. So I gave PTAS.
That's definitely the best number of words to actual scoring a point ratio.
Yeah. For who's the number 2 melee singles player in the world? Fendy, I could have sworn you said Armada first before switching your answer to plup. But
No, I said Armada first.
Yeah, I said plup right after.
Oh yeah, they said plup and
Plup.
Armada like the same time. Yeah.
Okay, so I think for this one I ended up giving it to Fendy because I honestly just liked his explanation more. So
Damn.
Fendy right now is in the lead, I believe, or tied in the lead with 2 points.
Yep.
But for the rollout one, I'd like Save really brought it well when he mentioned the thing about Hbox losing, and I just want to bring up can you imagine if Hbox went up, did that Smash Mouth entrance or whatever, and then ended up getting losing 2 games to Mutaking in the Puff Ditto? Just how goofy he would have looked. All right. So I think at this point, everyone is tied for 2 points, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the last one, in the best of $500 money match, wins. All right. I got to keep it 100 with you guys. I actually would have had Scar 3-2 because I wasn't sure of Fendy's experience in the matchup against Captain Falcon. But I got to say, the sheer disrespect and the sheer confidence.
This was rigged the entire time.
The sheer confidence that Fendy had.
Oh.
Be a blog.
Instantly being like, yeah, Scar, I'm going to 3-0 Scar. The fact that Fendrick Lamar would say such a thing about an esteemed noble, a well-respected legend of the game.
Lamar
The gall of a man to say that. I have to respect you for that, Fendrick. And that's why Fendrick Lamar is our winner of the Melee Stats Speed Round.
Excellent.
I'm upset.
Thank you.
So Fendy, now you got a minute to talk about whatever you want.
All right. So I want to talk about. So I saw a tweet from Toph that said wow, usually feels like Evo is wrapping up the start of the summer, and this year feels like it's the beginning. Whereas I thought that was one of the dumbest takes I've seen in a long time. It always feels like Evo is the start, no matter what it is. So, I was flabbergasted at that. And I was just like, what the fuck, Toph? So I'm very excited for Evo. Hopefully I will, we haven't heard back from commentary stuff yet, which is kind of shameful, but I would hope to be back on the mic for that. So excited for Evo, excited for the summer. I think we have a lot of good melee in front of us where I think that we are going to see. My hot take is that Hungrybox wins 2 of the big 3 tournaments coming up. I think he wins 2 of Evo, Smash Con. So yeah.
Yeah, that seems fair.
Yeah, and hopefully I'll come on again in a Kawhi jersey. We was in the chat talking about. Yeah, I know that Save's also a Philly guy.
Now Kawhi's coming to Boston, dude.
Oh my.
All right.
You're right.
You guys won your Super Bowl. Go back to. You don't need any more. I love how I'm saying this as a Boston fan.
Yeah, I was about to say.
All right.
Yeah.
Toronto will take the cup. Philly
Oh,
has the Super Bowl.
Ferris.
Boston can have whatever they want. They can lose to LeBron in the finals.
All right.
No,
Well, we were gonna do.
I could do like another.
Okay.
All right. So Fendy, tell us what's going on with your life. What are your goals for Smash outside of Smash? Whatever you feel comfortable talking about.
Yeah. I've been good, man. So I work on Capitol Hill. So things have been pretty crazy the last 19 or so months in particular. But
I wonder why.
I could.
yeah.
Hill.
Yeah, but things have been pretty good. Yeah, Smash has taken a little bit of a back burner for the last month or so. I haven't really been practicing, but I had a great time in my tournaments in May. I did well at Gommel in particular. I was happy with 33rd. And the goggles will be cool too. There is a decent chance that if I end up going to Shine, that Shine will be my last tournament doing the commentary / player split.
Okay.
I might take some time off the mic for a little while. We'll see what happens at Big House. Yeah, I don't know. It's just I've got a lot of I just hit 2 years with my girlfriend, so things are getting pretty serious there. So that's also taking
I feel that.
a good chunk of my time, which is fine. And yeah, so I think it's gonna be pretty interesting to see what happens with Smash Ultimate. I just got a Switch, so I'm very excited to get that and play it very casually. I don't think I'll play it competitively from what I saw, but I think Smash is in a good place right now. I think for all of the fear that Melee will, whether we lose Evo or whatever, I think Ultimate's actually going to be a really big boost for Melee. So I'm very excited for Smash, and I'll always be a part of it. But I think just based on what I've been doing, it's starting to just become more of a back burner thing for me, which is fine. There's so many young, hungry, up and coming commentators too that I think are more than ready to step into my esports style, whether you like it or not. That's sort of what I try and do. And I think the people like Jackzilla, and even slightly more under the radar. I think Greg, no one knows about good guy Greg.
No,
and I think Greg is
everywhere.
Great commentator.
Greg and Stock, I think, are both really good.
Flambeau, all of those guys, I think are more than ready to shoulder some that eyes, and
Studebaker too.
Yes, Studebaker's great. I love Ian. These guys are great, and I think that it's sort of, I to poorly paraphrase the Batman quote, it's like you either commentate long enough to see yourself become someone who only shows up for 2 tournaments a year, or you go out on your terms. And that's what I think that I'm gonna try and do, and I love, and again, this is sort of tangential and whenever I'm going to rant, it's I love Toph, but it makes me so mad that those 2 guys get every top 8 at our 3 super majors, the only tournament they go to. I'd love to see TJ and Chillin get one. I'd love to see, Brandon does still get some from time to time. It honestly, and I understand that they're, faces of our community or whatever, but it's such a disservice to the people that actually go to tournaments consistently, that do deserve a shot at some of these super, super, super big tournaments. So yeah, I guess that's where I'm at. I mean, things, I really can't complain. I'm
What are your current player goals and commentator goals, and how do you balance them?
So that's a good question. So my commentary goal for as long as I can remember has always been to, to commentate top 8 at a tournament that I don't have a hand in making that decision in. I want someone to, see if the stuff that I've done. I like to think that I'm the ultimate commentator when it comes to going to mid-sized regionals. I love supporting the smaller sort of events. I love, I go to Fight Pit every year. I love Combo Breaker, the Gang in Philly. Like I love Pound Underground. Like I love those opportunities to these tournaments that don't have the capital to fly out these big guys. I'm more than it's like, hey man, just like, I'm lucky I have a full-time job. I've got the opportunities to go places, not on, I can use some of my own money. It's not like I need to be flown out like a lot of these commentators positioning. So my goal will be to get to that level, and to have someone recognize that I put in a lot of time and effort in the smaller scale, and get rewarded with that. But that's my goal. For players, I want it. So I have a number of top 100 wins on players that were not technically top 100 at the time. I beat Ginger 2 months before he got on. I beat Rishi like 3 months before he got on. So like I want to get a top 100 win. And I was last stock game 3 with the bait this year. I was very close with Ginger, a combo breaker, before he 4-stocked me. And the set was Shroomed at Gommel.
That was very close.
So I would like those are my 2 big goals: top 8 at a really, really big tournament and a top 100 win. And I think I can do both. I really do. I can. It's one of them I have more control over than the other, but I think they're both within their own possibility for the next 6 months.
So I know Homemade Waffles has talked about this before, but and you don't have to answer this if you feel really uncomfortable answering it, but like, does it ever bother you that a casual smasher, like not someone who goes to turns, but someone that watches events will know you from the perspective of being a commentator versus being a player?
I don't know. It's like I honestly, it's surreal for me to even just have like people recognize that. It's still like I've had like real world interactions like at the airport, like, yo, are you Fendrick Lamar? It's like, oh shit, like the majority of people do know me for commentary just because that's where if you're commentating a block, you're on a stream in front of anyone between 6,000 to my personal record I think is 75,000 people will watch for like a good string of time. Whereas if you're playing, you're usually, unless you're one of the big 6, you're on a tournament stream for 20 minutes tops, like if that. So I think that people don't see the stuff that I put behind the scenes when it comes to being a player, and they just sort of make these kind of assumptions. And I don't know, it doesn't bother me. I've had more than one occasion where people come play me and be like, shit, you're like actually good at this game. I'm like,
That's funny.
I try, like I do, I really try. And again, if you're just looking at the names of people that I have beaten at some points, like there's some pretty good names on there. I won an Arcadian, I was PR'd here. It's like, I don't know. I don't necessarily see it disrespectful just because it's not the first thing that comes to mind. But it's something that all commentators will forever have to deal with, is being thought of as, not a great player, just because, people don't understand that. At least from there's also 2 like tracks, right? It's either you're a commentator first, like, and then you're not as good of a player, or you're a great player and then you become a commentator, right? It's like that's the 2 paths we see. And I think that most people in my path aren't that good. No offense. Like Jackzilla is not fantastic of a player. Studebaker Hawk's pretty good. He beat Bananas, but like we played at SmashCon and I shit on him in a money match. It's like,
geez, how many names are you gonna call out?
I'm not trying to.
You're our most disrespectful guest by far.
Yeah, it's just I honestly think that if you were to look at if you had a commentator player PR, like of people that are actually active, I think it's like, Lovage and Homemade Waffles are probably way up there, and then it's
DJ and Chillin are
Jane
pretty
Chillin.
good too.
And then I think it's like, depending on what you want to call Wobbles, I think he's an active player sort of, and then it's
I
like
didn't. I wasn't even thinking Wobbles.
it's probably me. Then it's like, who's the next? Like, I'm better than Webs, better than Chroma, better than Ipangu, better than Slime.
We gotta see
Better,
you, Scar.
clearly better than Toph.
Oh yeah, you can't deny you
Beat him at Evo. Yeah, so I don't know. It's an interesting balance.
So can we get a best of 5 100 with Scar at Shine?
Oh my god, that'd be great.
I would love to. I'd love to play Scar. I love Bobby. Yeah, mid-level players shooting at each other.
So I guess really what you're saying, Fendy, is that there are these two paths, and people don't realize that you're actually on the path of was a player first because you didn't hit that level of like getting on big streams as a player.
Right.
And so you're not mad because a lot of people, like their first time seeing you was as a commentator, but you were like sort of secretly on that player first path.
Yeah, like I had been focused on a player. I think like there was a point, I think in 20, so the I can actually pinpoint exactly where like I was like, all right, it's commentary first, then player. So Evo 2016, I made it out of round 1 pools. I lost round 1 and then won like 5 or 6 sets of losers to make it out. I get a couple of buys, and then I'm commentating the same wave I'm playing in round 2 pools. And it was basically like, what do I want to go do? Do I want to get up and go play bracket, or do I want to commentate this Evo sets? It was like the 4th Evo stream too. It wasn't the big one. And I was like, I'm gonna commentate, and that was sort of the point where I was like, all right, like I think there's more to really accomplish here. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'll continue to sort of take names at a lower key rate and do what I can, and the one thing I wish I could change is I wish I could change my seed. I was not seeded to make top 64 at Gamo. I got 33rd.
Mid-level players complaining about seeding. Look, I'm happy for you, Fendrick.
That's all I'm saying.
If I had nickel for every time mid-level respectable player complained about seeding. No, it's funny. I was hoping you were. I was awaiting. When I saw you like do that fist bump to make it to top 64 at Gama, I was like, yes, you tell him, Fendrick.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Anyways, well, I know you have to go, so thanks for coming on. It was really fun having you.
Yeah, I had a blast. I'm always happy to talk about Smash and everything, in the universe, and related to that, it's going to be a lot of fun for the next couple months. And again, thank you guys for having me, chat. Thank you guys for hanging around. I had a lot of fun.
PTAS, you got the thumbs up now, by the way.
Yeah. So I'm going to bow out.
Okay. I have a
Fendy,
rant.
stay for like 1 second.
All right. Okay.
I have one very quick rant. I feel Fendy should stay for this.
Okay.
It's not like rant directed at you or anything, but every time Evo rolls around, I always see people going on Twitter and being like, we don't need Evo, we don't need Mr. Wizard. The FGC needs Smash more than we need it. And I just it just pisses me off. It's such a whack thing to say that I need to call it out. Because even if it's true, which I don't think it is, because we greatly benefit from the clout that we get from being at Evo, CEO, etc. Even if it is, which is not true, why would you bother ending a relationship just because the other person benefits from the relationship as well as or more than you do, even if you still benefit from it? It just pisses me off that people keep saying that. Wizard is just a Twitter troll when he's not running Evo. Stop.
The big chicken.
Stop listening to what he says like it's gospel. Okay? I need everybody that's watching this to, the next time Wizard tweets something, just reply with, no, don't even reply. Just think to yourself that little gif of from Mad Max where the guy goes, that's bait. Just, that is Wizard. That is his entire Twitter, persona. So just don't take it seriously, please.
Yeah.
Don't get
So
baited.
I just put it in chat. There's a tweet from Pierce that was like, I'm delighted that Smash 4 numbers are low. I've been telling people that there are better options than Evo for years. Community isn't shrinking. We just have options outside of FGV events. CEO and Jabali treat us well. Evo and Mr. Wizard do not. Like, why on earth would you want your game to have low numbers?
Yeah. It's
Why?
pretty. That's the
Other
galaxy
teams
exploding meme,
Other
dude.
teams beg to just
If our-
get to Evo.
If we get less entrants, it'll be better.
Yeah, it's so bad. Like, you can like, no one is stopping people from, going to multiple tournaments. Like, yeah, the timing is weird just in 2018, but like 2017 when it was a solid month away from all the other big tournaments, it's like, go to both. What? I don't get it.
Yeah, like the numbers are probably lower because we have like 4 tournaments in August that are like gonna have as many entrants as Evo, plus air.
Yeah, August is gonna be crazy. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
it's gonna
But
be
I think you should still go to, like, Evo is still such a linchpin of our, we wouldn't
Should
be
I
where
go,
we are.
Fendy? It is important if I go. I feel like I should, but it's just so expensive.
It is really expensive. But again, like, for me, all it takes is one other thing. If there's a show in Vegas that you want to see, if there's, again, a degenerate activity that you really enjoy, like I
There's
do.
there's lots of degenerate actors.
I legitimately love to play blackjack, so that's a huge reason for me to go.
There's a few other degenerate activities I can think of, but that will be that will be for the offline podcast.
Yeah, that's
Uh-oh.
All right. Well, thanks guys for tuning in. Fendy, it was awesome having you on the show.
Thank you guys. My pleasure.
Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Have a good night.
And
Peace.